Hello, welcome here today. I want to say we are live. I'm not going to put money on it though, because I'm not one of those bidding men. However, welcome for those who are joining in. You have got WOR Season 22 Round 3 at Monza here today. It's definitely going to be a competitive 1.5, since at the moment we've had two different winners in the opening two events of this season. You've had F7R Alex and Maxter to bag a win in America and Silverstone respectively. If you recognise my voice, I made a one-off appearance last season at Silverstone for Tier 3. However, without further ado, let's enter qualifying here today. I believe there's 19 drivers, yet so many drivers, all hungry for pole position. I am one of your main commentators for this division this season, and it's going to be a joy to commentate all the shenanigans which may unfold between now and the season finale in 7 odd races time in Brazil, as cars are starting to work their way out of the pit lane now. Who is going to be the man on pole? If I was to put money on it, I may have to go for the Sauber of Maxter or Jogonka. Trying to learn these names since it's of course debut. However, Cedric is the first man out on track here today. The Aston Martin taking the first tour round this very much amazing Monza circuit. Such a complicated track, yet so short in lap. It's just chicane after chicane. More than anything, you've got Variante Alta, Variante Reggiano and Variante Ascari. Then also the infamous Lesmos, which the Aston Martin is going through now as they work their way up towards Variante Ascari. It's just a very nice and flying track, yet made so difficult to overtake on. However, you can just see the typical lines the drivers would be taking, trying to push up against either curb, then down the long back straight up towards Curva Alboreto. It's called now, used to formerly be called Curva Parabolica. However, out of the final corner now, we are going to get the first lap of this evening, and it's going to be Cedric. Battery being deployed, DRS wide open as they work their way up towards turn 1 now. There's Red Bull leaving the pit lane. They'll do all they can to stay out of the rate, which they succeed in doing so. Heavy on brakes, down to gear 2 through turns 1 and 2, back on the throttle as they work their way back up through the gears 6, now 7, up towards 8 maybe through Curva Grande. Yes, they will, as they now head towards the Aramco Bridge. It's a 25.9 baseline sector 1, chucking it through the next chicane as they work their way to the Lesmos now. It's looking good so far, but of course it's the first driver to set a lap as there's a Sauber now rapidly approaching. It will be very interesting to see what this Aston Martin can do. Didn't try and take a little bit of a toe out of it. It's a 52.1 after the first two sectors here today. The British based team doing quite well in Italy. They haven't seen too much form so far this season, their best result being 13th, and that in Kota. Going through Curva Parabolica now, heading up towards the start finish line, rinsing out all remaining battery. What will it be for Cedric? It will be an 18.1 here today, a decent lap to set as a base mark, as we can tune on with Milos in the secondary Red Bull. They're currently 12th in this championship on 7 points after the first two races. Their teammate Mizter on 18 points. So Red Bull doing a fairly decent job as a whole. while Sauber currently sitting as the team to beat. Through the Ascari chicane they go, continuing to push on for their lap, trying to get into that toe of the Racing Bulls as they work their way up to Curva Parabolica. It's just really all about how much top speed you can get around the lap. As up towards start finish line now, you can see they take that tighter line over the line. It'll be P2 for Milos, and just a tenth and a half behind Cedric, as we can find Simone, who's starting a lap with no battery. They're most likely on a slow. What about Adis, who's set a good lap so far, but it's invalidated, so that is in the bin. What about Lakitu going through the Lesmos now in the Ferrari? From what I've heard, they've stepped down to reserve this race. However, luckily they were able to snab a Ferrari seat, which they in fact drove for in the season opener, where they scored 8th place, which is 4 points on the board for them, as they work their way out of the Ascari chicane under the Tag Heuer bridges, as it's reaching highs of 207, maybe even 209 miles an hour. That drops with the no deployment of ERS out of the final corner. Now what can Lakitu do as they progress up to the start finish line? Now it's a 19.1, it's 10th fastest, not the slowest of them all, but probably not the most ideal lap out there. Zadus going once again in the Haas, really pushing track limits, invalidates in the Lesmos. Caden, however, first sector, it's a 25.7, absolute best first sector. The game doesn't truly know who is in fact the best in each sector until everyone has set a lap in this session. Only 6 minutes are down, you've still got 2/3 of it left, so do not leave me here today, because there is going to be a lot more action than just the 12 cars. Make it 13 who have set a lap, with Jakonka going to provisional pole in the Sauber, good 3 temps clear of their closest competitor, of the Aston Martin, surprisingly. Alex, who's your championship leader, 15 points clear of anyone else, only in P3 so far. The Sauber on 18 points in P1 at the moment, as Caden working their way up towards the start finish line now. What can they do? It's an 18.6 for the Alpine car, as Danilo into the pit lane. That is them looking for a new setup. As you can see, quite a few cars all in unison going into the garage, as I believe that is Antares heading out the pits in the Ferrari, as Lakitu entering the pit box, and now their teammate out on track to see what they can do. Into turn 1, just really doing all the necessary cool down in this session. But yeah, irrespective of that, it's been such a good qualifying so far. The gap between second of Cedric and 5th of Milos just hitting a 10th and a half. That fits 4 different constructors, but if you look at it in terms of the constructors sense, 7 cars in the top 7, and then it's a repeated Sauber and Alpine P8 and 9, with an 8th constructor in P10, just showing the insane levels of competition here today in terms of the Constructors' Championship. Alpine and Sauber identical on points so far, 43 at piece, with Racing Bulls only 21 behind them on 22 points. What can Ferrari do? However, they've only scored 4 points in the opening 2 events this season. Antares currently 11th, Lakitu in 13th, going through Curva Parabolica now, about to start another lap in the Monza liveried Ferrari, which you can of course get in the Survival Challenge if you have the 25 game. Heading up towards turn 1 now for the Ferrari. What can they do? They're going past the Aston Martin and the Williams into turn 1, heavy on brakes, try and stick it into gear 3, pushing as much as they can through there. We've seen some go to gear 2, some stick it in gear 3, going full risk, full reward in this case, as already up to gear 8, looking at 200 miles an hour, heavy onto the brakes now for turns 4 and 5, left and right. Quite a strain on the driver's physique because they're just relentlessly steering that car either way through the Lesmos now into Lesmos 2, and out they go. Battery being used, DRS now wide open as they work their way down to the Ascari chicane. 9 minutes left in this qualifying session, half of it complete, and only 4 drivers without a lap. It's an absolute best in the middle sector for Antares. However, the Red Bull leaving it late for that Ferrari to go round as they now slingshot themselves up to the final corner, tapping on the brakes, keeping it in gear 5 so they can try and push as much as they can out of the exit up to the start finish line now for Antares. What can it be for the Ferrari? It'll be P5. A very good effort so far and a much deserved lap with Milos a quarter of a second down. Let's see if we can find someone in fact on the latter stage of a push lap. Mini Stig a quarter of a second up in the first sector. What will it be at the end of the middle? It will be a good 9/10 up in that Aston Martin. They've gone off in Ascari. They are going to continue pushing on because they did not get invalidated, which is very much fair play by Mini Stig, deploying battery up towards Parabolica now, keeping it nice and clean through the right hand, opening it up on the exit just so you can then tuck back in on the run to the start finish line. It's the optimal line. Is it the quickest line? It will be for the time being. Half a second found. P15 on the grid now with Kalu in the Racing Bulls, currently P19, their teammate Jamie in P17. These two third in the constructors so far, rounding out the final corner, working their way up to the start finish line for Kalu. He scored all Racing Bulls points so far this season over the line. Is P2, looking like they will continue that fashion with their teammate down in 18 as things stand. Cedric Theory not on a competitive run. What about Manolo? He is looking quite quick as they wrestle their car through the Ascari chicane, working up towards Curva Parabolica now. Whether or not this McLaren can sneak themselves up this pecking order a bit further, we will find out. They've only had one race this season, and that one race came with a DNF, which is of course a failure to finish, as ADAS goes quickest of them all by 15 thousandths of a second over Joe Conga, with Milos currently on a slow harvesting battery and in low fuel mode. There's a Sauber going round there. I believe that's Jaconga. Yes, it in fact is. As they head up to the start finish line into the pits, they will go. They know that is not a competitive lap from them. As let's try and find someone on a push, if there is any, of course, because quite a few drivers won't be really pushing in this stage. Yeah, looks like they're all in on this lap that they're on. There's one or two who's staying out. For example, let's find Caden in P16. They're going out of the Curva Grande. Don't know why I'm getting these corners so wrong. But yeah, then there's Caluble, or Caluble, shall we pronounce him, going into the Lesmos. Don't know whether or not it's too competitive. They are in fact in none, as Adus in fact provisional pole in that Haas driver. Could we see a third pole sitter this season? The reserve driver made their debut last week and finished in P3. Nice to know. As now all the cars heading into that pit lane with not long left in this qualifying session whatsoever. The hunt for pole position is very much on, as it does look like it'll be torn between the Haas, Sauber, Racing Bulls and maybe even the Alpine if they can put a lap together. But then Cedric, we haven't seen much of that Aston Martin this season so far, 13th in the one race they did. Looks like Monza is quite good for them as a whole. But 4 minutes left on the clock, and Dale is on a lap. What can the Williams do? It's a lock up into the first corner, jumping over the chicane, completely fighting the car on the exit as they progress their way round the Curva Grande. Can the Williams do a wonder lap to put themselves up there? It's 6,000ths improvement in the first sector, through the left, through the right, heading up towards the Lesmos now. It's a very minimal gain in the first part of this lap. They're going to chuck the car round the first Lesmo up to the second Lesmo, continuing to chuck the car, not as aggressive, into the wall they go, and that is Dale out, going a bit airborne as well. That is the Williams making a costly error in this qualifying session, head in the hands for the driver, as they will definitely be regretting that, as Adis is the first man coming out on track for the final qualifying runs, as that's already one driver who has put an end to their qualifying here today. As the Haas driver hasn't got a pole yet this season, it's been Alex and Max Storr, the Alpine in 4th, and the Sauber down in 15th, who have currently occupied both pole positions this season so far. Adis, however, working their way down to the Ascari. They're currently provisional pole, 15,000ths clear of anyone else. This is a must improve lap for the Haas driver. That is what will make it count come the end of this qualifying session, as they work their way up to the Curva Parabolica now in the Secura Japanese GP Haas livery. Out of the final corner, they are going to try and push. Or is it a second installation? It's the second installation lap here today for the Haas driver. Whereas you can find likes of Jamie working their way up towards turn 1, also on a second installation. But Lacatu, he's gone, you know what, I might as well roll the dice, face some traffic and not go for a second installation into the first corner. They go heavy on the brakes, drops down to gear 2 this time, takes a bit less speed, a bit more care. Into none they go, as we can find Danilo, who's working their way up towards turn 1. They are doing a push by looks into overtake mode as they run up to the first corner. What can this Williams do? Of course, one Williams out of this qualifying so far in P7 at best. Danilo 3/10 down from their teammate in P14. If they could try and work their way back up that pecking order, it would be absolute amazing for the Williams team, just since this is not ideal whatsoever. 19,000ths up in that first sector. Very minimal gains by these drivers, but those gains can be the difference between pole and P2, as you can currently see. It's so insanely close up there, but it's so insanely close between 13th and 14th. 1,000th of a second between Tommy and Danilo in the Mercedes and the Williams. Out of the middle sector, it's a 10.5 up for Danilo now, as they've invalidated in the Ascari chicane. We'll find Tommy, who's right behind them, pushing round up towards Parabolica. They go now. Can the Mercedes find themselves, elevate themselves maybe into the top 10 on this championship standings, into the next final corner? Up to the line now. What will it be for Tommy? Into the pits they will go. That is their lap out the way. We can ride on board with, you know what, Cedric, P6 at the moment. This is very much a qualifying for the season. Alex only P4. Liam no lap in this qualifying session. It will be P20 on the grid as Cedric rounding out the final corner, working up to the line. Jaconga cannot beat Adis. Kalublu to 6th, Simone 5th, Cedric only 7th, as it's Kalu who's gone to pole, but Manolo not improving, and Tares working their way up to the final corner of this lap. This is their last attempt to go any higher than P11. Can they sneak that Ferrari into the top 10? Is not much that has to be found. Over the line now in the Ferrari, and it'll be P9. A good effort for them. As Maxter over the line, it's invalidated. They will not improve. Jamie invalidated as well. Danilo also invalidated. So it will be Kalu who takes pole position here today. The Racing Bulls on the top step with Haas in P2 and Sauber in third. But in terms of the championship, the man who leads after 2 races, still very much the favourite to extend their advantage over Maxter after this race, because Alex in 4th and the Sauber of Maxter down in 16th. 100% didn't invalidate, says Caden. However, that is qualifying out of the way here today. That is the first part of business over and done with, as the drivers now all look up at the main event. It's Kalu on pole, followed by Adis in second, Jakonga in third, Alex 4th, Simone 5th, Kalu Blue in 6th with Cedric 7th, Dale 8th, Antares 9th, Milos 10th, Manolo 11th, Mizda 12th, Tommy 13th, Danilo 14th, Lakitu 15th, Maxter down in 16th with Caden 17th, Ministig 18th, Jamie 19th, and last, without a lap, it's the McLaren of Liam. As now, this is the opportunity for the drivers to look at what they've done so far, assess what they need to do in order to work their way up the field. Is it a 1-stop? Is it a 2-stop? Is it even go to Lulu and take a 3-stop in this race? Or do they need to drop the wings? Do they need to up the wings for more stability in the corners? Maybe something the Williams could take into account. Of course, the man who ended up finding the wall in that session, not ideal, but it's the time to make last tweaks to their setups and then determine their final strategies, because whatever happens in these next 25 laps or so is going to determine who wins here today in Monza. As for those in chat, who do you think will take home the win here today? I think Adis has a good shout. However, Kalu has a very good position lining up provisional pole. Well, not provisional pole, in fact pole. As Kalu is representing FST. Fair play to that Racing Bulls, showing them their companions there how it's done with a WOR console tier 4 pole position here today. Can they convert it to a win at Monza is the main question, or will they be tackled and taken down by Jakonga or even Adis, who are tucked in right behind? Could Alex even be in play? The Alpine Championship lead at the moment, finished third in the opener, finished first only a week ago. As we are just waiting for the ready up, for the drivers to all turn around and go, it's race time, because that is what we all are here to see today. Dale says they have throttle issues and then also a little lack of talent. That's what saw them DNF, as we have been told. Do not ready until half past. For those who can't read the time, it's 29 minutes past and 59 seconds. It's officially 8:30 here in the UK, and the drivers now fully allowed to ready up and go racing. Whether or not they want to be too overly keen in doing so, we'll find out based off a prolonged wait. As, yeah, we of course haven't got that ready. We now have, in fact, 3 lights are up, now 5 are up. It's going to be Racing Bulls versus Haas into turn 1. The lights are out, the driver's underway, all nice and cleanly as it's ADAS versus Kalu. Ghosting is on for the run to turn 1. It's Racing Bulls, of course, against the Haas. To the inside goes ADAS, and they're going to be slingshotting ahead. Almost no defence from that Racing Bulls, as there's a McLaren going off there. Manolo, 3 second 4 track limits, yellow flags out of the first 2 corners. There goes Simone and Cedric wheel to wheel round the Curva Grande. Will they continue on into the chicane, heavy on the brakes? And it's Cedric to the inside against the Mercedes driver. They are not going to give up there, but the Aston Martin up and through, as you can now see Kalu Blue piling the pressure on to the Mercedes as well. It's almost getting worse and worse as the minute goes by. However, the Mercedes did a good job to stand where they can in the early stage, as there's Kalu Blue darting to the inside for a switchback. Simone definitely caught off guard, a bit of front wing flying off as well in the process, as there's wheel to wheel action for P8, and Antares overtaking Manolo, and then Milos to the inside for Curva Parabolica. Antares on the inside of Kalu Blue, and that is the Ferrari ahead of the Haas car. Ada starts the second lap in the lead. It's going to be a drag race to the first corner. Can Kalu maybe go for an overtake on the Haas driver? No, they won't. They'll close in, however, and then more action downfield again. Milos on the inside of Kalu Blue, trying to take the outside through turn 2. A bit of contact made between them, as now it's Antares. Yellow flag now out, as Dale ends up going into a spin. That's the Williams round, with Mr. pushing on Danilo, as there goes Manolo. Big mistake, and there is absolute manic. Cars round, Max Door and Milos caught up. Manolo disqualified for driving the wrong way. I don't know what the XPG driver thought was going on there. However, that is their race done on the second lap. They've done 2 races this season. Both of them have been unclassified finishes. As we can now look up, as there in the background, Jamie slingshotting out of Ascari, spinning off into the wall. It's not the only car we've seen struggle with throttle, as clearly Manolo and Dale all getting caught up in some action last lap. As up towards turn 1, it's Kalu versus Adis again. The Racing Bulls ahead of the Haas. Could a move be made in reaction now? The Haas closes in, jumps over the curb, as there's Jaconga, who has gone round in the Sauber, plummeting down the order. Where can they rejoin? Whilst Danilo and Milka going wheel to wheel. The Red Bull versus the Williams once again. Last time we saw these two go wheel to wheel, there was almost a race-defining crash between them. But they keep it clean into the chicane. It's in fact Danilo on Kalu Blue. The Haas losing another place. A bit of contact on the exit of turn 5 into the Lesmos now, and it's the Haas who stays ahead of the Williams. They now go into the second Lesmos, and it's still the Haas who propels ahead. They've gone quite wide on the exit. There'll definitely be a track limit strike going their way in this race, as to Ascari they go. Danilo to the outside of the Haas and back up into P7. Relentless racing here in Monza for Consultier for And for those who have just tuned in, you've missed quite a bit, including Dale, Maxtor, Vukasovic and Manolo, all kind of losing their heads a bit in the second lap of this race, as there's more action. QRT Caden overtaking Kalu Blue, the man on the on the Haas, I believe on hard compounds. No, they in fact aren't. They're on mediums. They're just struggling like mad in this race, as Jakonga on the inside of Lakitu trying to push away back up through the field. The Sauber lost so many places in the early stage. So yeah, that is a mission for this race so far, as it's all kicking off back here, not as much up the front. More than anything, it's just the traditional swap of places for the leading positions, which you do almost see in any odd WOR or PSGL event, as there's a yellow flag out on track. That is Jamie and Maxtor. Jamie going off there into the wall, lucky not to have lost a wheel like Dale did in qualifying, but that is definitely going to be some damage of some form on the Racing Bulls, as this race really just has not gone well for them whatsoever, as Kalu tucked in within 7/10 of Adis as they round out of Parabolica now, taking a wider line in the Racing Bulls, seeing whether or not they can try and propel themselves up to the first corner. Adis, fastest lap of the race. Can Kalu go even quicker this time round up towards turn 1? There'll be no move made from the Racing Bulls. The Haas threat all covered off for now, as the Racing Bulls now just following through Curva Grande, not able to get too much closer, as there's a bit of action going a bit further back. But we will look at the Mercedes and the Ferrari, Antares versus Simone. This is going to be season long battle between these drivers. They are giving it their absolute all at the moment. And Antares currently no points so far, as Liam 3-second track limits penalty for multiple warnings. That's going to be added on to the driver's eventual finish time here today, and very much limit their chances on coming home with a point in the bag, as you can just see how close Simone does get with that extra 15 kilometers an hour of DRS assistance in some of these main straights. Into Parabolica they go, but you can just see how close it is now at the front. Kalu about half a second closer than a lap ago. DRS wide open to the outside they're going to go, and they will breeze past Adis. The Haas unable to defend the challenge from the Racing Bulls, and out of turn 1 that is now the race lead for them as well. Liam has retired from this race. That's game over for McLaren. It's going to be a pointless race for the team in Papaya. It's definitely not a way they want to be ending off their Thursday evening here today, but that is just how it rolls in events like this. Maxtor into the pits. They've got quite a lot of work to do. So do their teammate Jakonga, who's in P9 at the moment, whilst Maxtor already in the pits in this race. Dale has also pitted. They are destined for at least a 2-stop, with a safety car out now. There's yellow flags for a front wing that's gone off of Caden in that Alpine. We saw them drop down the order. It's only ended up in a safety car. Maxtor is going to be extremely annoyed now, since if it came a lap earlier they would have got a free pit stop along with it, but now that enables everyone up front to pit. Who rolls that dice and comes in? Kalu's in, Adis is in, Alex is in. Is Cedric even trying to make a move? He attempted it, he had that thought, as there's a Red Bull and Williams wheel to wheel into the pit lane. Who's ahead? It's going to be Mister in the Red Bull. Danilo will miss out as a result. However, so many drivers going from the mediums to the hards. 2 drivers on the hards even pitting themselves. They are going to the fresh mediums by the looks of it, as they are all working out the pit lane. Jamie getting 10 seconds for track limits. But it really has all kicked off here in Monza. We're on lap 7 of 27. There's so much more left in this race here today. As Antara's getting 3 seconds for corner cutting. It's just annoying when that happens, especially under safety car VSC when you're going at such low speeds. It just catches you off guard more than anything. As now Kalu hit at the helm of this grid, whilst one Racing Bull's Fry, the other one very much in the mud. As that is the best way to summarise their race here today. Jamie currently P18, and more penalties than laps in this race. It feels like they are just so frequent on that timing ladder and that penalty board for track limits, incident penalties, corner cutting, all sorts. As Kalu going through the Ascari, their teammate only just leaving the pit lane now, just showing how far back they in fact are in this race. We will be having at least 2 laps under this safety car, just so then Jamie can catch up to these lot. As you could just see that queue at the back really just being so wide and ambient, just showing how close everyone is out on track. But this playing as a major opportunity to reset the race, reset everyone's chances at bringing home the win here in Monza. But will Kalu win, or will Adus win? Maybe will even Alex win? We haven't seen much of that Alpine today, but they've definitely been up there. What about Cedric even? That Aston Martin has been sublimely quick when need be, and we're just seeing they're consistently able to hold on to the cars up ahead of them. So now we just wait more than anything. Dale has just came out of the pit lane. They have seen that opportunity to pit and only lose, let's say, 1 or 2 places. So they've taken it, making the right call rather than having to wait and pit again. They could just try and take those hards to the end, which I do feel most drivers will end up trying to do. Is less than 20 laps on those hard compounder tyres, and that will very much be your race settled in terms of strategy. Whereas the likes of Antares, Jokinga, Lakitu and Ministig, and then even Jamie will all have to pit again at some point. They're on the mediums. The likelihood they can go 20 laps is the likelihood of the likes of Lewis Hamilton winning this year's championship in real life. Those odds being 0, as those mediums hardly can go 15 laps of this Italian temple of speed. Italians well known for pizza, pasta, spaghetti, all sorts, but then, and even floral aspects and art, but then they're also very keen on high speed action. But at the moment, unfortunately, we are getting quite low speed action with these cars, all currently neutralised by that safety car. For those who have just joined, QRT Caden had a spin that brought it out. Debris scattered across the exit of the Lesmos. In terms of the McLaren's race, Manolo got caught in an incident on lap 2 with Milos, Maxtor and Dale. That saw the McLaren end up facing the wrong way and getting disqualified for going the wrong way. Then Liam ended up putting an end to their race, just due to being completely out of it. Little did they know a safety car would only come a matter of laps later. So now 2 McLarens out and 9 constructors left in this running, 18 drivers left in this running, and just over a third of your race distance here today. As now the safety car is coming in this lap. Kalu has got the time to try and defend against Adus. He lost the place into turn 1 on the initial start procedure against the Haas. Will they be able to hang on this time? As now Kalu has full reign on what happens between now and lap 10. They can go as slowly as they want, as long as they don't go to a standstill, and they can run away when they please, and they have chosen to run away now. Now they cannot come back on that decision. It's going to be a push up to turn 1. Kalu versus Adax. They very got the Haas off guard as they work their way up towards turn 1. It's going to be the Racing Bulls that leads away to the Haas, to the Alpine, then to an Aston Martin and Mercedes. Currently 9 different constructors in the top 9 this race. Unfortunately, we couldn't have 10 with the 2 McLarens, of course, out of the running here today. As out of Curva Grande they go. Kalu very much left undisputed against Adas. They just didn't manage to match the raciness of those Racing Bulls in this start procedure. Therefore, they are just going to have to wait until the DRS zone comes to them in a lap or so's time. As remember, first lap after start procedure, whether that's a safety car restart, a race start, or a red flag start procedure, it's 1 lap without DRS, as Jamie has found the wall, and there's another safety car. We won't even get DRS coming back into play as the field neutralised once again here in Monza. And it's quite frustrating for those at the front doing all the hard work of trying to pull away and catch their opponent off guard, play those mind games. It's just inconvenient whatsoever. But for Kalu, just gives them a bit extra time to get extra heat into those hard compounded tyres. However, if you put too much heat in, then it will really bite you in the back. As Antares and Jokongo into the pits on the mediums, they've gone, you know what, it's time to get off them. They'll go on to the hards, have 4 lap fresher tyres, and try and push in this race to see where they can round it all off. As Kalu in first at the moment, Adus in second, Alex again third. There's not much point me reading out this grid whatsoever, because it's the exact same top 5 since the previous restart, just due to there being absolute zero time for much to be made out on track. However, now there's 7 cars in the top 7. Can't say the same about P8. There's 2 Aston Martins in that top 8 of this race, therefore not making it as special as the first safety car, as we will get 1 more lap under the safety car conditions at minimum. With another lap that Kalu leads in this Racing Bulls car. They'll probably just be waiting for that safety car to end, either that or praying that the safety car could last forever, just because that way then they won't have to deal with the threat of Adus. As we are very much near the halfway stage in this race, and I can't say we've done half of this race under green, because unfortunately we aren't even at that halfway stage in terms of green flag racing. We would have to be at about lap 18 to get there. on the basis they restart this lap, we will have a look at what the lights do on the safety car now. Do they go off or do they stay on as they work their way up towards Parabolica? You can see Kalu dropping back, trying to preempt that safety car coming in as they close in, and safety car is in fact in this lap. The lights have gone off. Kalu back in complete control of how these drivers go back underway here. Will it be Kalu or Adis ahead into turn 1? Adis failed at trying to catch the Racing Bulls in the previous restart. Can they do a role reversal this time and maybe come out as the victor between them, as they now get the final temps up in those hard compounder tyres, as Kalu is back underway. Ada staying a bit closer than they were last time. Is it going to be close enough to try and make a move into the first corner? I don't think it will be, as we are back underway here in Monza for WOR Season 22 in consult here for round 3 at Monza. Is going to be Kalu who leads into that first corner. No move made there, however, lock up for the Racing Bulls, just showing they're really doing all they can to push away by braking and turning at the same time, which typically does not enjoy itself in terms of this game's handling model. So yeah, not much really in this inaugural restart apart from Adis having a little trip off the track. Big snap of oversteer there. Alex could now try and push past the Haas car in the Alpine. They go through the first Lesmos, but Adis is able to hang on in the Haas. They had a very big moment and now out of DRS range of Kalu for the lead is going to be very much helpful for the Racing Bulls. But maybe not as much for Adis, who now gets 3 seconds for trying to cut the corners to get back into track contention with Kalu. As I'm very much losing my own English abilities. That's the time of night we are at, 9 PM. I just switch off from there. So do not worry if I end up speaking no standard English. As Mr. versus Simone into turn 1. Can the Red Bull get past the Mercedes? To the outside they will go. They will not be able to make a move stick. Who will, however, is Kalu Blue against Tommy. To the inside for turn 1. Round the outside in turn 2. They'll dip a tyre into the grass. You know exactly what I mean. And therefore Caden goes by with Milos round the outside in Curva Grande. Can the Red Bulls make it worse for the Haas? Yes, they will. To the inside, and that is P12. But now Dale even trying to get a move on Kalu Blue, didn't manage to. Milos giving a tight squeeze on the Haas, and that is now P12 for the Red Bull. As at least we can say this time we are on the second lap of racing since that restart. They now have DRS on each other's. Kalu Blue to the inside for the Ascari chicane. The Haas back up into P12. They'll be very happy about that. As now Dale even getting a little bit of traction on the exit again against Milos. To the outside they'll go. And they are definitely ahead of the Red Bull before braking. They'll just have to try and hang it on the outside for Curva Parabolica as they now work their way up towards the first corner. The Williams is now ahead, whilst a bit further back it's all manic as Mizta and Simone overtake Cedric, the man who started P6, now returns to P6 with a Red Bull now in the top 4. Mr. Season was 6th in the opener, 5th in round 2, and at the moment it looks like P4 could be their outcome in round 3, just slowly working themselves up that pecking order until they finally win. As there's Cedric to the inside of Simone in the Mercedes, catching the silver arrows off guard almost. However, Cedric just unable to get the move done and make it stick when asked to do so. So they'll now use DRS as they work their way to the Ascari. Will they go to the inside? It will be Danilo who's on the inside of the Aston Martin, and that is the Williams up into P6. Cedric in P7 now. Kalu Blue 3-second penalty as Cedric holding on against Mini Stig, their teammate, to the inside. The Aston Martins know not to collide in such manner. They are yet to score a point from their main drivers so far this season, and just in general. So they need these points in the bag, as they'll set your fastest lap. No moves into that first corner as now. We just continue to watch these two Aston Martins, different strategies. One's on the hards, one's on the mediums as things stand, as they now go through the Curva Grande. But more than anything, these drivers do need to try and find a way around fighting one another, because it's just going to hold them up even more. Because the Lacatu tucked in behind in that Ferrari, they'll be looking quite desperate to try and make a move in some way against them. As up towards Ascari, no moves again made from either Aston Martin. It's a lot more open-ended than it was a lap ago, where they were all quite nip and tuck going through that chicane, as it's just all settling down, trying to get back into that rhythm they had in the earlier part, and most importantly try and take it to the end from here. These safety cars have really assisted those on the hard compounder tyres. Those on the mediums, however, may have to try and look at an alternate strategy. But for now, you've got Tommy trying to make a super move on Lacatu. To the inside they go. Can they wrestle it round the outside in turn 2? No, they won't. They almost go into the grass, just like Milos a few laps ago, and work their way down the field. But Super Tommy going out of Curva Grande now to the inside for turn 4. Mercedes had that run, and to the inside they are now up into P9. A very super move for a super driver. That's Tommy up into P9 in this race, pretty much matching their consistency in this earlier part of the season. It was 9th in America, then it was 7th last week. It's currently P9 once again here today. However, there are still 11 or so laps left of this race to run. Quite a lot can change in those 11 laps, as currently Alex is P2 in the RS range of Kalu. Could the Alpine maybe start to power a threat on for the race lead? Up towards turn 1 they go. The Alpine versus the Racing Bulls. Who is going to beat the other into the first corner? They won't make a move. They know that they can be much safer than that, as most of these drivers just in formation. But Caden doesn't like the formation there, and they see P10. They made a lunge. They know Lakitu has got a penalty, but they can't afford sitting behind the mediums that are dying per the corner. Around the outside Caden goes to turn 4. Can the Alpine finally get past the Ferrari? They'll go to the inside, try and make it stick, but Lacatu will hang on to that P10. It was a stellar attempt by Caden, just unable to get the job done, however, and that will be frustration for the Alpine. They saw the opportunity, tried seizing the opportunity, just couldn't make the opportunity stick. Yes, a lot of opportunities which were all wasted by that Alpine, as I will now officially stop saying opportunities for you lot, just as I could probably tell it's driving you nuts, as there's yellow flags. It's Caden out and Lacatu into the wall. I think we all sensed something was coming, but that is another safety car and a big horror crash here in WOR. Into the pits comes Adis and Kalu. Adis, in fact, overtaking for the lead and then getting 10 seconds for speeding. What comes around, well, yeah, how do I phrase that? That is just scene taking more than anything, because now Kalu is not your provisional leader. but Adis is. However, Adis, with a 10-second penalty to their name, and Jakonga now taking P3. Caden says, this game, can imagine your frustration. Almost got past the Lakitu into turn 3. Ended up finding the wall in Ascari after contact with the Ferrari. However, now these drivers can work their way back up to the safety car, get temps into those tyres once again, and then go racing once again. 14 drivers, well, 20 drivers started. 1 got DSQ'd. 4 have DNF'd so far. Man went sideways. That is very annoying, if I have to say so. Unfortunate, that's how your race has to end, because another car went sideways and you just couldn't avoid them. At least, is all I can say, for the likes of the other drivers. It wasn't them that got caught up, but again, unfortunately, ended up being you, and that is why your race has been cut short. As yeah, that is just annoying, to say the least, for the driver and Alpine as a team, because they are of course equal on points entering this race against Kick Sauber. 43 points shared at the top, 86 points if you were to merge the teams. However, that is very much cheating if I were to set the rules out. So yeah, whoever ends up scoring more points today will end up of course taking that championship lead between Alpine and Sauber. At the moment, Alpine do not have that upper hand. Alex down in P5, Jakonga in P3. They chose to stay out on the hards. They think they can make it to the end and still be somewhat competitive. Whereas Maxtor is in P12. Adis has in fact pitted for hards and getting rid of their 10 seconds. It's a big sacrifice because that drops them down to P15. But now all they have to do is try and work their way back up through that pecking order. As we will be going back underway on, I want to say, lap 21 here today. That's one thing for the drivers to remember, is have a drink periodically, because that's what I'm doing to try and survive this race. As safety car is in, who is going to end up leading into turn 1? Will it be Cedric who holds on? He's on the oldest tyres out of all these drivers. But Antares and Jakonga in the Ferrari and Sauber tucked in right behind. Then you've got Kalu and Alex on brand spanking new tyres respectively. They're going to be very racy here today, as round the final corner Cedric is in control. The safety car is safely in the pit lane, as it does look like they're going to go up towards turn 1 now. There's been an overtake between Mini Stig and Dale. That's going to get reverted, which it has done so now. Adis and Kalu Blue also doing the same thing. That's now been sorted up towards turn 1 now. On lap 21, we are back underway here. Can Jakonga fend off against Kalu? Kalu to the inside of the Sauber, jumping over that sausage curb in turn 1, and that's allowing Alex to try and get a run out of turn 2. Heading up towards Curva Grande now. Can the Alpine squeeze their way past Racing Bulls, or will it be the Racing Bulls who can barge themselves past the Sauber to the inside? They'll look for turn 4. They don't go for a move, but who does is a Red Bull of Mister, who saw that gap, tried seizing the opportunity, didn't manage to, and instead Danilo to the inside through the Lesmos doesn't get the move to stick. That's going to be P7 for Danilo and P6 for Milka, or Mister you should call him, as Milos fending off against Mini Stig as they go for a drag race up to the Ascari chicane. The Aston Martin on the outside, the Red Bull on the inside. Can Milos hold on? Yes, Milos in fact can. as Mini Stig trying all they can to fight back, heading up to Curva Parabolica now. Can the Aston Martin finally regain P11 in this race? They'll have the outside line, the ideal line, as most would say, but Milos on the inside. They'll hold on. A switchback made there by Mini Stig. Yellow flag still somehow out. I think that's just a game bug, as Mini Stig is now by Calu Blue, even overtaking Superb Tommy, who's going to again tuck into the toe and try and fight back. Mini Stig has got racing on the outside as Antares has had a DNF. Absolute mannequin. There's another safety car. More debris everywhere as this race not getting enough of it. Adus 10 seconds. Antares out of this race, and I think something happened there with Jaconga involved, but for the sake of Kalu and Alex, it's now a few less laps to get caught up in an incident, and they're P15 at the moment. Yeah, that's now 2 constructors out of this race. Just unfortunate, to say the least. However, now once again they are all held up in their formations. Now it's safe to assume we have very much narrowed down the drivers with a chance of winning here today. Dale, Maxtor, Adus, Mini Stig and Calu Blue into the pits. Adus has put a close to their race in the Haas. So now we started with 20, we have 13 left, and those at the back going to the soft compounded tyres. From what I can see, that's going to be very interesting to see how that unravels between now and the end. For the sake of Mini Stig, he's in fact on the hards, Calu Blue on the softs. So yeah, it's all set to be determined in the next few laps. As now my drink's gone, as Kimi Raikkonen would not like to hear whatsoever. As safety car lights are still on by the looks of it, meaning we will have one more racing lap done under the safety car. And now is to be determined between these lot. Can Cedric hold on to take a win here today? Could even the likes of Calu take that win? Time is going to have to be settled with the upcoming laps here today. With it now being lap 24 of 27, it's very simple to say that time has been diminished. Opportunities have been wiped, and it's very much a clean slate for these drivers between now and the end of this race. Whether or not we go racing for the final few laps on the next next route round or not, whether or not we go for an extra lap We will find out in a matter of moments time as they work their way down to the Ascari chicane. If you haven't worked out, this is just a bunch of waffle to fill that time going through the Ascari now. Are the lights going to go? Yes, they in fact will. Safety car in this lap. Cedric has the lead for this restart, just like the last one. Will Cedric be able to hold on against Kalu and Alex is the question, as they work their way up to Parabolica now. Safety car heading into the pit lane as we speak. Once that safety car is in pit, the drivers are allowed to cross that safety line and go back racing here today. Cedric, it's your time to shine. But will the Aston Martin shine bright like a diamond, just since it's $1 billion team, as they now wait, leaving it late? When will they run? They will run now, and we are back on the way for 3 laps here in Monza here today. Who is going to win? Kalu getting a decent run so far, but there's Alex to the outside. Can the Alpine squeeze past against the Racing Bulls? No, they won't. Simone versus Danilo. However, wheel to wheel, the Williams missing half the front wing as there's contact. Danilo is off and into the wall. That is their race over and done with. The Williams game over. Gioconga is down to P12 as a result. As you can see there's a Red Bull going to the inside of Simone. That's Milos in the Red Bull. Simone cutting the chicane to gain the place. Will they give it back? Yes, they will. And as a result, Maxtor into the back of the Mercedes. The Mercedes pushing the Sauber off the road. That's Maxtor down to P12. Gioconga in P11. Both Saubers from in the points to out of the points in the opening lap of this restart, as there's Kalu who looks to the inside. He knows it's just safer to play it the easy way because of how much manic we have had in these last few laps, as Danilo is out and now retired. 12 drivers are left here in Monza as they go through Curva Parabolica for the 25th time today. They are going to work their way back up towards turn 1. It's been a corner of manic here in Monza. DRS is now enabled as Cedric trying to break the toe from Kalu. Kalu closing in, just unable to get by. However, as you can again see a bit further back, Tommy trying to look for a move on Mini Stig in the Aston Martin. I can guarantee you all that this is definitely going to be shaking up the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull could skyrocket in, so could the likes of maybe Aston Martin, because Cedric doing a good job up there. As Dale to the inside of Milos, that is them ahead of the Red Bull. They tried switching back, didn't make it work. Mini Stig to the inside of Milos. Can Mini Stig keep it all clean? Yes, they can for the time being. Into the second Lesmos they go, and that's the Aston Martin up into P6 as Milos down to P7. But Super Tommy now DRS trying to make it a drag race for P7 as Kalu has overtaken for the lead as Milos fends off Super Tommy off the road, as there's Maxtor darting down the inside on Simone, trying to even make it stick on Tommy as well. As you can see there, Kalu, now your race leader here in WOR. There's just been so much to try and follow on with as we enter the final lap of this race. It's the last chance for any changes in position as Cedric to the inside against Kalu. Can the Aston Martin take the lead? Yes, they in fact can, but covers off Kalu late on the brakes. Both cars are locking up into the first corner. I think there's even a bit of damage on the Racing Bulls now as they go to Curva Parabolica, Curva Glandau, wishing this lap away too soon, as it's going to be Cedric versus Kalu. Kalu to the inside. He looked for the opportunity. The Racing Bulls doesn't seize the opportunity. They know Cedric has that penalty as they'll go to the inside for the Lesmos. They'll have to try and survive this now. They'll get into a bit of contact. Cedric going off for a brief moment, but Kalu will get back by as the RS comes back into play once again. Can Cedric go for a lunge on Kalu just to say he won this race on paper rather than on the final result? To the inside, and there is Cedric ahead of Kalu. This is now giving Alex a great chance to try and get a run out of the Ascari chicane. Could there be a move into Parabolica? Cedric versus Kalu. Kalu to the inside of the Aston Martin. They'll dart to the inside. They'll keep it on the road just about, as it's a drag race up to the line. Who's going to cross the line first between these two? Will it be Cedric or will it be Kalu? It will be Cedric, but Kalu will take the win with a penalty in Cedric's favour as Alex comes home P2. But that was manic, is all I can say. Cedric may have won on track, but Kalu is your race winner here today. 3 winners in the opening 3 races of the season, and they're all top 3 in the Drivers' Championship. There's the Racing Bulls drivers celebrating away. It's Kalu with the race win. Jaconga, most overtakes, cleanest driver and fastest lap, then Mini Stick. Your driver of the day here today. 62 thousandths between Alex and Kalu. Could have been a much different story if Alex got on that throttle a fraction of a second earlier, or Kalu got on it a fraction of a second later. Mr. Milker in P3 for Red Bull, and then Dale making it the top 4, split by 9/10 of a second here, with Milos in P5, Cedric P6, Ministig 7th, Jaconga 8th, Kalu Blue 9th, Simone last points playing position in 10th, then it's Maxtor 11th, Superb Tommy 12th, then it's Danilo, Adus, Antares, Caden Lakitu, Jamie, Liam and Manolo, all failing to finish here today, as that is your WOR Season 22 Consultier for Round 3 event at Monza, all wrapped. However, I can guarantee you all, this really does set up a championship for the final 6 or 7 races of this season, with Alex versus Kalu now looking like your main headline. The gap between the two now only 11 points in the championship. Kalu taking a decent chunk out of them as a repercussion. In terms of the constructors, it's Alpine who stands strong at the top of the table. Red Bull having a great race, allowing them to jump up 1 or 2 places. Aston Martin also getting a healthy haul of points that could end up seeing them reach up to the top 7 for Jeddah next week. And then for McLaren, unfortunate for them to have both cars out first. Like literally the first 2 drivers out of this race were the 2 McLarens. That was a shame. And if Monza was hectic, I can guarantee you, tune in with me in a week's time and you are going to have a whole field day in Saudi Arabia. But for now, that's been me, and I'll see you all then. Goodbye.